All right. How's everyone doing tonight? Welcome to our webinar, Shark Research and Public Safety with the Atlantic White Shark Conservancy. We have a very interesting conversation for you here tonight, very important conversation about great white sharks in New England. It's a very hot topic. And really, when we talk about great white sharks in New England, knowledge is really important to public safety when it comes to spending time in the ocean. And these are iconic animals in New England that invoke a sense of wonder and fear for those who visit the coast. So we've invited on a special guest here, Kristen Kibblehouse from Atlantic White Shark Conservancy. And Kristen we're going to talk all about their latest research that is being done by Atlantic White Shark Conservancy and their partners, and talk about how that research has implications for public safety. So, Kristen, thank you so much for joining us. It's a pleasure to have you again.
Awesome. Well, hello, everyone. And thank you to Brian and Ashley for having me be on another talk with you. I know we did one last year around this time, and I really enjoyed being able to reach out to your audience and be able to talk to you more. So I'm excited to kind of do a part two and kind of dive deep more into some fun science that has been happening here for the last year.
Definitely. And it, just like you mentioned, we are building off of a past conversation that we've had. So to set this up, we've talked about basically the role of great white sharks and the recovery and the conservation success story of white sharks and seals in New England. And now we really want to build on that conversation and talk more specifically about the research that your team over at White Shark Conservancy and all your partners, because I understand this is a collaborative effort, correct?
Oh, yes, very much.
Nice. So yeah, Kristen, I don't know if you want to just dive right in with a quick overview of your season last year in 2021. That'll be really awesome to hear from.
Yeah, absolutely. So for anyone that's watching that isn't familiar with the Atlantic White Shark Conservancy, we're a nonprofit that's located in Chatham, Massachusetts. So right on the elbow there of Cape Cod, where we are really helping in 3 tiers of anything around the white shark here around the New England area. One is being a collaborator in the research that's being done by Dr. Greg Scommel with the Massachusetts Division of Marine Fisheries. So we collaborate with him on research efforts with our own staff scientist, Megan Winton, and as well as our research coordinator, Ashley Novak. With that, we are seeing these sharks move close to areas and close to shore where we all do like to enjoy our summer and fall months here along Cape Cod. So with that, there is that public safety key as well. Us being a nonprofit, we do not have jurisdiction of what can or what cannot be done here along our local coastline. But as a research collaborator, we are then able to share our findings with people that are in charge of those public safety initiatives to then be able to have them make those decisions with the research and findings in their back pocket so they do know what is up to date. And last but not least is our education initiative as well. So here at the Atlantic White Shark Conservancy, we do these types of talks like this to be able to engage the public, to teach them about what we have been doing here. And then as well as going into schools or community groups, we also have our outreach facility in Chatham, and as well as our brand new facility, which is going to be located in Provincetown, Massachusetts on the Macmillan Pier. So we'll be able to have a brand new building on top of our home base in Chatham as well this year to be able to educate the public about these sharks here along our coastline. But for our 2021 season, we were busy as usual, as you are all busy at the up there where you are all at. So for us, one of the main goals that we are doing here is be able to tag white sharks, to be able to figure out their movements here along not just the Cape Cod coastline, but where we do see them move as far north as the Canadian region to as far south as Florida. So with that, one of the main tags that is being used here is called an acoustic tag. And with that, we've had 39 of these tags be able to be placed on sharks this season. So the photo that you are looking at, if you look to the far left, that is what that acoustic tag looks like. It gets placed into the body right at the base where the dorsal fin meets the body by that intermuscular dart that you see there. With that, all of our research revolving white sharks or the great white shark, it is the same animal, but white sharks. So with that, We do all of this as the shark is freely swimming. So we are not capturing that animal to be able to tag it. We collaborate with a spotter pilot as well. You can see that shark there swimming beside our research boat there. So with that, we work with a spotter pilot, Wayne Davis, who actually took that photo there that you are seeing on our screen. And then we are working with that shark as it is freely swimming. You'll see then Dr. Greg Skolmel standing out there on the pulpit there getting some GoPro video footage of that individual. So with those acoustic tags, we are able then to look at those movements along the Massachusetts coastline, but with collaborations throughout the New England region, there are receivers placed off the coastline of New Hampshire, which we'll get into in a little bit, as well as states like Maine and Canada as well, and Rhode Island. So there is a larger acoustic array as well. With that, if anyone is interested in that acoustic array, we do have an online platform. It's called the White Shark Logbook. That is a really great platform to be able to look at the acoustic data from the last 10 years. So the Atlantic White Shark Conservancy was founded in 2012, but the state research through Dr. Greg Skolmel has been happening since 2010. So because of that, there is 10 years of acoustic data at your fingertips to be able to explore. So you can look at how much the array has expanded. You can also look at it by shark, by receiver. You can look at it by length. You can also go into our white shark catalog as well and see the ID sharks that we have ID'd so far. There are over 500 sharks that have been ID'd so far, with 250 sharks that are total tagged. So with that, then you could go in and look at all that fun data from the acoustic tags. But then we also have another cool tag that we work with, which is called the CATS tag, which stands for Customized Animal Tracking Solution. So with that CATS tag, you can see it there on our lovely white shark Neptune. It kind of looks like a Nickelodeon Choice Award, if anyone knows that, what it looks like, that orange blimp. That's what it reminds me of when it is hanging there off of the shark. And it is placed on our shark at the same spot as what our acoustic tag would be. It's actually attached on by an acoustic tag. You can kind of see the acoustic tag there on the shark, then with that CATS tag there floating beside it. So what this CATS tag does, it really gives us a shark's eye view of what that shark is doing when we cannot always be there with that individual, right? No, we're only there when that shark is closer to the surface and we're able to observe it. But unfortunately, we cannot follow that shark 24/7, even though that would be pretty cool. We just don't have that technology yet. So with that, then what this tag is able to do, it captures video footage of that shark, of what it's doing as it's swimming. And it also has a really interesting device in there, what is called an accelerometer. So if anyone has a Fitbit, an Apple Watch, or just carries their smartphone with them, they all have accelerometers in them. So it captures swimming speed for us, acceleration, velocity, and it also has different types of data loggers in there as well that will give us water temperature and water depth and light levels. So it gives us a lot of cool information to see what that shark is doing within the water column, seeing what it is doing within our dynamic ecosystem that we have here within the New England region, but then as well as looking at predator and prey interactions as well to maybe see if there are patterns that are happening as sharks are preying on seals or other animals like fish and other sharks and rays and things like that. So these are all things that are able to learn more about the life history and the movements here of white sharks, not just off of Cape Cod, but really in the New England region. So we do have a really cool video to show you of some of those CATS tag footage that we did receive. So you're looking at white shark Snoop Dogg. And that pause video there, that is then the arrows pointing toward a spiny dogfish. So that spiny dogfish, it is a smaller species of shark, only gets to about 4 feet in length. And what we are viewing is white shark Snoop Dogg eating that spiny dogfish, which is something that has never been observed before by using these tags. We've known through necropsy records and fishery records of white sharks that they do eat spiny dogfish when they have that opportunity to, but it's never been witnessed. So be able to capture these types of interactions on these tags to learn more about what they're doing as they move offshore, since the spiny dogfish is more of an offshore species and not an inshore species.
Yeah, that's so much data right there. And I know Kristen, you've already gotten my brain churning. I know if anyone out there listening has any questions for Kristen, definitely leave them in the comments and we'll have some time to get to those. But Kristen, I know you did mention that you all have a ton of these tags out there and the buoys that the receivers out there that are collecting the data. And from what I'm aware, here in New Hampshire, I know your work is concentrated down south in Cape Cod, but here in New Hampshire and in Maine, it sounds like you are starting to implement some of these receivers. Do you have any updates for any of our listeners out there who are living in New Hampshire or north in Maine about the data that you're going to start capturing about white shark movements in these regions?
Yeah, absolutely. So with ourselves and then Massachusetts Division of Marine Fisheries, with those collaborations that are happening in other states, that acoustic array is expanding. So in the state of New Hampshire, there is a receiver off of Northampton Beach. For the 2021 data, though, we unfortunately do not have that yet. We do actually not have most of our 2021 data. A lot of the receivers are still in the water. I'm sure, as you all familiar, we had some really crappy weather this winter, and that's when they usually try to take them out. And so not the safest way to be on a boat and try to get receivers. And then it's been cold and not really safe conditions. So once all those receivers are brought in, our data team is able to download all of those detections to be able to give that out to the public as well. So all that 2021 data will be eventually put onto the white shark logbook. And so if you follow us on our social media, we'll make a post when all that goes out as well. So don't worry about missing it for now. But I can at least share for any type of 2020 data. So I can share for 2020 that actually no tagged sharks were detected on the Northampton Beach receiver. But the really main thing and the key thing is to remember that no tagged sharks were recorded on that receiver. So unfortunately, the only thing with science, we can tag as many sharks as possible, but there's still ones out there that are not tagged. So those receivers are tracking the tagged ones, but we do know by fishery records and as well as past tagging efforts and such that we do know that white sharks do move up and down the New England coastline. So through those tagging efforts, we have seen those tracks go past the state of New Hampshire to go into Maine. We've seen sharks from previous receivers out on the Isle of Shoals as well. So yes, so that's about the research update there.
And question for you, I don't know if Ashley, if you had a question first.
I do. For the acoustic tags, so how many total have you put out there? And do they stay, as long as the shark doesn't sustain an injury to that area, do they stay on? Do they ping forever or do they have a limited lifespan?
So that's a really great question. So right now, there is 250 sharks that are tagged with about 190 of those tags that are active. So since I said tagging started over 10 years ago now, and as just as our smartphones change almost every other year, this technology has changed as well. So when these first acoustic tags were being put on sharks 10 years ago, they had about a battery life of 5 years. Or now newer ones have a battery life of about 10 years. So now we are seeing sharks that were tagged at the beginning of when research was, or a few years after, that have those old tags that are being retagged with these newer tags with longer battery life. They are designed to stay into the shark, but sometimes, they do work their way out, or they get pulled out, or an injury or things like that can happen. That's the risk we take when you're tagging an apex predator. Those things might happen. But we still have then with those sharks that have those newer 10-year tags, it's a really great long data set to be able to obtain by one animal to learn about their movements.
That's great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Kristen. And so now I know I want to move into a discussion about the specific research projects you've been working on and some of the findings that you've had in 2021. So this is very recent, correct?
Yes.
And so this first study, I'm going to pull it up here. Is all about hormone concentrations, but I've heard a lot of folks ask questions related to this study. And what exactly were you looking for here, Kristen?
Absolutely. Yeah. So this is a collaboration with the Atlantic White Shark Conservancy, with Dr. Greg Scomo with Mass DMF, and then as well as some researchers out of Arizona State. So Hannah Verkamp, she was the lead scientist on this study, as well as with James Silikowski, and looking at the reproductive hormone concentrations of white sharks here. So this is one of these collaborations that we have that, Arizona State not very close to Massachusetts at all. But we can still have these types of collaborations to, again, furthermore learn about the life history here of white sharks in the Northwest Atlantic. So very similar to how you can tag a shark as it is freely swimming, you can also take a muscle biopsy of that shark as it is freely swimming as well. So what the goal of this study was to be able to test those reproductive hormones like testosterone and estradiol to see if there was any type of indication that those sharks reached maturity, hence meaning that they would be at an age where they can start to reproduce. So with this study, there were 14 sharks that, I should say 14 samples, 13 sharks were able to be sampled. And with that, we did see that the male concentrations were much higher than what we saw in the female sharks with their hormones. So with that, it can be then assumed that either the females at that point were not at that stage in their life cycle, or they were able to reproduce, where males, it looks like maybe that they were. So really the long-term goal of being able then to do more of these biopsies and then do more of this type of work is to figure out, well, where are white sharks reproducing? It's something that is not known on a global scale with other populations of white sharks, and really something within the Northwest Atlantic. It's assumed that where they go and pup, or where they go to give birth, is off of the Long Island region due to fishery records of fishermen fishing baby white sharks and such, but we've never seen one mate. We're really not sure where that is. So being able then to obtain those muscle biopsies maybe can kind of paint that picture more, and being able to tell where maybe they are mating. So seeing then where those hormone concentrations are might be able one day to help us kind of close that gap a little bit more.
Thanks for that, Kristen. That very interesting study. And so I, coming from Long Island myself, actually, I have heard those rumors as well, that they found, that's where they believed these animals were breeding. But so you do have plans to expand that data set. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, there is hopefully with those collaborations that that it did say at the end of the study that more biopsies would have to be taken to increase that data set. So hopefully we would be able to continue that work and those collaborations on those.
Nice. Ashley, do you have any questions about this study? Because I do have one more.
Nope, I don't think so. That's really interesting.
Yeah. And I'm curious, what would be some of the implications of learning if these animals are reproducing off of Cape Cod, for example, versus just coming there seasonally to feed and kind of transition through the area? What do you think are the implications on the ecology of the area, or to people? I'm curious.
So I think that one, just being able to learn about that life history, it's so much. You think that we know so much about white sharks. That's what they're always the star of Shark Week. They're always on the news. People are always talking about them, but we really have just kind of like scratched the surface about them. Yeah, There's so much about their movements and their life history here within the Northwest Atlantic that scientists really don't know yet. And because of that, being able to maybe see like where they're reproducing, or at least maybe think about, and with these types of studies, be able to draw those types of conclusions. One, just helps learn about that total ecology and the life history of that animal here as well. And being able to, we already see these white sharks being here, coming back off of the New England area is just a sign of a healthy ecosystem as well, right? Having those apex predators there is showing that, our ecosystems are healthy and they're coming back into balance, especially after the drastic population decline before protections were put on in the 90s. So I think overall it's showing that, those protections are working, and being able to have nature just be awesome.
and we definitely will touch on that a little bit more later on. And I see we're getting some great questions that are coming in through the comments. So again, I'll remind folks, if you have any burning questions that you would like us to answer towards the end, leave them in the comments. But with that, we're going to move on to, there's a second study here, and we're slowly we're moving in a certain direction, which if you're listening, you'll find out soon enough. But the second study, it's titled "Define Scale Vertical Habitat Use of white sharks at an emerging aggregation site and implications for public safety. So I know that's a mouthful, but would you like to tell us a little bit about that study in itself, and how, just what you were looking for there?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, with those collaborations that are set in place with us, and as well as Greg Scoble with Mass DMF, and then this is also with ASU as well, looking at tags that were put out on white sharks in 2017. So the tag that was used was a little bit differently than what our acoustic tag is. This tag actually, it's part of what the CATS tag is that we just talked about. It has a water temperature logger, and as well as water depth. So it doesn't look like the CATS tag, but it has those type of those loggers that tag does have. So with that, then those tags were put on sharks to be able to see what their movements are inshore and as well as offshore here. And what was really surprising to this research movement was that white sharks are spending 95% of their time in 0 to 100 feet of water, with ocean temperatures at around 48 to 69 degrees Fahrenheit. So 48 degrees is pretty cold. So be able to see that white sharks are spending time in that cold of water was a surprising fact. And then the next surprising factor on top of it was that they're spending 47% of their time in water that is 0 to 15 feet. So knowing that then, and being able to look at that and then see that their frequency of travel from further outshore, then to go back in between shore, as well as when they were spending those times in 0 to 15 feet of water. So look at that then we can then look into the habitat use of white sharks and draw those conclusions of, well, why are they spending almost half of their time in 0 to 15 feet of water? So with that, is one of those conclusions is to actively feed along those gray seal populations here along of Cape Cod. But we're also seeing them, just like you saw in those CATS tags, they're going offshore to feed on spiny dogfish as well. We see them feed on larger fish species too. As they're younger, they feed on squid. So we're knowing that they are spending this time in shallower water. And then with that, though, it does show, though, the overall risk of human to shark interaction is still extremely low, even though they are still spending about half of their time in that shorter range of water.
Yeah, those are interesting findings. And is that only happening on Cape Cod, where are these studies being done elsewhere where we're seeing these animals spend time, a bit farther offshore? Are these white sharks off Cape Cod? Is this a unique behavior that's specific to the region?
So I think it's specific that to say that, like, when we talk about like white sharks off of Cape Cod, they're not like our white sharks. It is the Northwest Atlantic white sharks. Because we are seeing them move, those vast long ranges. And with that, we could put this type of tag on a white shark here off of Chatham, but then it might move offshore and off to other states as well. So just because we put them on here, it might not record that inshore movement that those other ones have as well. So kind of going back to what I said, we don't know everything about their movements. That we see that with that all the 500 sharks that have been ID'd so far, not all 500 are off of Cape Cod in August. So some of them are completely bypassing the Cape and going up to areas off of New Hampshire and Maine and Canada. Some are staying further down south. So again, just those things that we have to learn.
Yeah, it's very interesting information. And so I know you mentioned in this study public safety as well, and that's kind of a good transition into the next study that you've shared with us tonight, and that one is titled. Sorry, I'm going to pull it up here. So is this a new study, or is this a program that you're working on currently?
So this is an ongoing. So this is it was started by the Center for Coastal Studies up in Provincetown with Brian Laguerre. So it is a study that we are collaborating with, again, we as meaning the Conservancy as well as Greg Skolmel with DMF. So with that, then Brian Laguerre is looking at fine scale acoustic movements, where us, when we are putting and looking at our acoustic array of white sharks, those receivers are not very close together. They're more on that larger movement scale. So if you can see there on your screen, this photo is was given to us by the Center for Coastal Studies. So with that, you can see those black dots are where an acoustic receiver is. You can see they're much closer together. They're between the sandbars. And with that, then you can really look at fine scale movements of these white sharks then inshore as well. So with that last study that we were talking about, we know they're spending 47% of their time in 0 to 15 feet. But now we can kind of take it that next layer and see, well, what are they doing in that 0 to 15 feet? How are they moving between sandbars? How are they moving in and offshore? So with that, then this is a continued study that Brian is doing, and then being able to collaborate in that acoustic receiver work that way.
And would you say it's just a coincidence that all these studies seem to be gradually getting more like fine scale and kind of starting with a broad idea, figuring out, okay, these animals spend, was it 47% of their time, near shore. Okay, now in this near shore environment, where are they spending their time specifically? Is that just the natural progression of this research, or was it planned?
I think that's just science in general, right? You start with one large question, and then, as you kind of answer that large one, you're like, you get more and more specific. I think that's just really science in general, and being able to, have these types of collaborations and technology where we can get specific is really great to be able then to. So I don't think it was always in the main scale, but I think just how science works.
Yeah. And I do remember specifically, Ashley, you'll remember this too. We were on a call fairly recently with Dr. Greg Skolmel, and I found it really interesting how he mentioned how the research focus that he's had over in recent history has really transitioned towards this filter of public safety, and focusing on public safety. And I found that really interesting, because obviously this is a very hot topic out there today, and a lot of people have a lot of questions about this. And so these studies, they do have these implications for public safety, correct? I mean, I know we talk a lot about how knowledge really is power, to learning how to coexist with these animals. And do you think that you all at White Shark Conservancy are making these strides in that direction successfully?
So I think with, the overall goal of our research, one is to, learn about the white shark and to be able to put those puzzle pieces together that we, haven't been able to for a very long time. And with, learning about those movements, if it is inshore or offshore, then being able to share that with people that can put forth those public safety initiatives. It is about that collaborative effort. To be able that, yes, we're learning about this species, but, you also want to share with the public about what we're learning about as well. So,
yeah. And I think that transitions really well into our kind of final topic here for tonight's webinar, which is really talking about public safety. I know, Ashley, I don't know if you feel this way too, but at a ton of the outreach events, or any time that we are out there on the beach doing marine mammal rescue work, I constantly get questions about white sharks and public safety. And I know, Ashley, you're an outdoors person. You spend a lot of time out on the water, correct?
We do. We're on the water as much as we can be.
I know, and same. I love surfing, and I surf year round, but you do take precautions, and you do a lot of what we're going to talk about next. Some of it makes sense, but you really have to think about this, and it does come down to education is key to keeping yourself safe. So Kristen, I was wondering if you could share some tips for the public out there to help limit those human white shark interactions. I know you did mention, and I love throwing this statistic out there, that even though the overlap is significant, there still is minimal risk to humans. They're not out there looking actively seeking out humans. I think the statistic I like to use is that significantly more humans are bit by other humans in New York City then are attacked by sharks throughout the world globally in a given year. And I think it's, if that puts it in perspective for me, at least a little bit. But I think, yeah, it'll be incredible to dive in and hear your perspective on some of these safety tips.
Yeah, absolutely. So there is, if you go on the Cape Cod National Seashore's website, and as well as ours, we share that as well. Those are Shark Smart Beach safety tips, and it's safety tips that we have been collaborating with the Cape Cod National Seashore to be able to give out. So them being as staying close to shore, adhering to signs and flags. So here off of Cape Cod, that we do have the purple shark flag program. You can see the drawing photo of that in the top right corner. So here on of all of our oceanside or outer arm beaches of Cape Cod, beaches fly those purple shark flags to be able to have that constant reminder to beachgoers there's potential that white shark could be out there. There's also increased signage here along the Cape Cod coastline as well to make it apparent to anyone that is entering the beach that sharks are actively swimming in this area, and also as well as actively feeding. So they also have of limit your splashing, avoiding murky water, do not isolate yourself, avoiding seals, avoiding schools of fish, and as well as listening to your lifeguards. And with this, then with following these Shark Smart tips, it does help minimize that human and shark interaction as well. So when we are looking at this, obviously, when we look at avoiding seals, sometimes that is easier said than done, because being a marine mammal, they do spend time in the ocean and as well as on land. We want to make sure that we are respecting all wildlife from a proper distance, not just sharks as well. So we want to make sure that we are making sure that we are keeping those safe distances from seals, not just because they are the prey item for a white shark, but because they are a wild animal as well. With that, then, this is showing there that like you still can enjoy those activities that you do like to do if you are a surfer, a windsurfer, a paddleboarder, anything like that. But there are some things that you can do, like these Shark Smart tips.
Nice. And I know we're going to open it up to the public for Q&A pretty soon. And I have a few questions as someone who spends a lot of time surfing. I try and spend as much time in the water as I humanly possible, outside of working marine mammal rescue with Ashley. But a question, and I know that my mother is going to be very glad that I asked this question, because for Christmas, a couple of years back, she bought me this, she's very concerned about my well-being out, while I'm surfing. And she bought me this, a surf leash that has one of those, it says that it's got a deterrent, electromagnetic deterrent, for sharks on there. I'm just curious, do any of those technologies that are on the market right now, are they proven to work? Has anyone done any research with that in great white sharks? I know I do run into some of those questions with my fellow beachgoers, and I'm curious if you get those questions as well at the White Shark Conservancy.
Absolutely. I mean, we do get those questions all of the time. So with that type of technology, we know with sharks, so they have a really cool special sixth sense, which is called their sense of electroreception. They have teeny pores around their nose and their mouth. It's called the ampullae of Lorenzini. And what they do is they do detect electrical pulses. So it can be by technology or as well as heartbeats of animals. So with that, then it is assumed that these types of technologies then will help fend off sharks and such. But a lot of that technology has never been tested on white sharks. So with that, it has been tested on other species of sharks, but those studies for white sharks have not been there. So can't say that it does or does not work with that species, unfortunately.
Gotcha. Very, very interesting. So now I believe, unless you have another question for Kristen about the public safety bit of this.
Well, maybe that's just a new research avenue you guys need to go down.
Maybe.
Yeah, the possibilities are endless. But with that, we're gonna open up now for a Q&A session. We have had quite a few questions come in through the day. So Ashley, I know you have our list of questions that we have for Kristen here. A lot of them are pretty interesting, and so we'll have a little bit of a nice conversation over the next couple minutes here.
All right. So the first question is, can we expect to see more white sharks moving north towards Maine? And is Cape Cod going to become the white shark capital of the world?
So let's go to the first part of white sharks moving up to Maine. So we know by tagging data and as well as just historical fishing data as well that white sharks have always been part of the Maine coastline, just how they've always been part of the Cape Cod coastline or the New Hampshire coastline. So I'm not sure what they're thinking like it'd be more apparent. I think is more tagging efforts and adding in a larger acoustic array might be able to answer more of those questions of what their seasonality is and as well as what their movements are along the coastline. So that is going to be we will see as research continues. But, and then with the next part of that is Cape Cod and New England going to be the next like white shark capital of the world. I don't think it's going to be, if we want to say like the white shark capital, when we look on a global scale, there's 5 distinct populations of white sharks. So we do see here within the Northwest Atlantic, as well as then on the West Coast of the US in the Pacific Ocean. And then we also see them off of Australia and South Africa and New Zealand. So I think one is that we are seeing this reemerging population, right? So historically, we've always had white sharks here within the Northwest Atlantic, but due to human influence, we drastically took a lot of that population out. Some estimates say up to 80%, but then also due to human influence through conservation efforts, we're seeing that population rebound and then to be able to grow again back in this area as well.
Great.
Yeah.
Now, this one is a 3-part question.
Oh, okay.
Where can I go to see a white shark?
Okay.
How common is it to see one from shore on Cape Cod? And
Okay.
where on the Cape are they most active?
Okay, so for where can you go to see a shark? So one of the best ways that we like to tell people is actually by plane. So if you would see like an aerial tour of Cape Cod, a lot of people will see sharks on their aerial tours or an ecotourism trip. So here at the Conservancy, we do offer our ecotourism trips to take people out on the water to be able to see white sharks with our lovely naturalist and education team. And then also maybe you have the luck of standing on the beach. My summer educator, Haley, is an avid Nauset Beach drive-on person. She's there whenever she can, and she has never seen a shark from the beach. I've never seen a shark from the beach. So it's really rare, but some people have. There's a man that he saw one almost like once like a month a couple years ago. He was sending in all of our video footage that we got from sharks being seen right off of the beach. So I mean, if you have the luck, you can. And then what was the last one?
And where on the Cape are they most active?
Where on the Cape are they most active? So we definitely see the higher concentration of activity on the ocean side or on the outer side of the Cape. If you're really more interested in seeing kind of those trends, that you can see that through the acoustic data. But based on that data, we know that the most active time for white sharks is August, September, and October being the peak time for white shark activity here off the Cape.
Nice. And related to this, actually, real quick, I did see someone else leave a comment about drones. And I know that on Cape Cod National Seashore, you're not allowed to use drones. But I've heard talk of the use of drones in spotting sharks and helping collect data on near shore movements. Would that be a way? Has the Atlantic White Shark Conservancy, is that something that's on your radar, like the use of drones?
So for us as a research side of things, since we're working with our spotter pilot to be able to spot sharks on the coastline for us, we are not currently using any type of drone. But again, as towns, that is up to the town's decision if they're going to have their lifeguards fly drones. If anyone would be interested in that, that would be something to have to reach out to their local town about to see if
that's really good info.
Are implementing any of that type of drone program.
Yeah. Very interesting.
How about Mike asks, why are sharks attracted to murky water?
It's an interesting question. So sharks, especially the white shark, they're apex predators, right? They're creatures of stealth. So they want to make sure that they're not being seen. So this is why we see here off of Cape Cod that We're not seeing them make breaches out of the water to be able to capture their prey like we see in videos off of South Africa. One, they really can't do that here because we see them in 0 to 15 feet of water for 47% of the time. So they really don't have the depth to be able to breach. So they really rely on their stealth and their kind of sneakability to be able to capture their prey. So having that murky water there is that one extra step of them to kind of keep their cover.
I like that sneakability.
And I guess this one kind of coincides with that, not from the same viewer, but do sharks see color?
So there's something that scientists are currently working on. That is something that we don't know of just with white sharks, but with all sharks. We can assume they probably see in different hues because due to necropsy results, they have rods and cones in their eyes like we do, and that's what allows us to see color. We really just don't know in what scale yet.
Okay.
So
yeah, I'm personally, I'll just chime in here again. I know surfing. I'm very interested in this as well because that's what I've heard just through the grapevine is if you paint the bottom of your board a certain color or a certain pattern, that it could influence certain shark species. So I'll be, Kristen, let me know if you find out any more information about that. All right?
You will be the first one I call.
Deal.
I know it seems so simple because it makes you wonder, Brian, I think you and I have talked about this before. If sharks can see color, why don't we change the color of wetsuits so that we don't look as similar to seals? But, then we'd have all surfers out there in neon yellow and neon pink and, could be more fun as well.
Interesting one. I see we got a couple more questions that are chiming in here.
Yep.
Ashley, if you want to ring through some of those.
Also from Mike, where can I find a site to watch the sharks that have been tagged?
So there's a few different things that you can do. So if you want to look at like past tagging data, you can go on the white shark logbook. So if you go on our website, atlanticwhiteshark.org, there's an apps tab and you'll see the logbook tab. You can look at previous, it's not current or like in real time data. But then if you download our smartphone app, which is Sharktivity, you can see real-time data when the research season is going on. So anytime our research team sees a shark, it gets put on the app. Anytime our ecotourism team goes on, we will put that sighting on. But it's a really great way for citizens to be involved too. So if you see a shark from the beach, or if you're on your boat and you see a shark, you can input that sighting as well. And then as well as we have those receivers that we were talking about earlier, there is a special receiver that is called a real-time acoustic receiver. So what the name is, we get those recordings in real time. So those are integrated into the app as well. So you can see what tagged sharks have been on the real time too. So.
Oh, you're muted.
I do see, sorry. I see another really interesting question here from Paul Smith asking about the range of white sharks in New England. Is fall the most active time for white sharks north of Cape Cod as well? Other than just, I've seen personally, I've been down to Cape Cod and I've seen the signs that you have up, and that they're very impactful, very educational. But is it the same concept up here in New Hampshire and Maine? Is fall the most active time period for white sharks?
So it's something that hasn't been determined yet, especially because receivers up there haven't been in the 10 plus years as they've been in down here. So as those efforts go on and we can continue to have that long range data, that can be something that will be looked at.
Really interesting. Nice.
And then let's see, we can probably get to a couple of more. Sarah asks, why are white sharks white underneath?
That's a great question. So it is their camouflage. So for them, they have white underneath. So if you are a predator or prey item swimming, so white shark, my hand's the white shark, predator or prey, underneath that white belly is going to blend into the sun, like coming through the surface. So then it blends in. But then if you are flipped around, then that dark body is going to blend into either the deep color of the ocean water, or then that darker color of the just the sediment as well. So it's part of their camouflage. We actually did a post about it last week. We posted a video from one of our cage diving experiences out in Guadalupe, Mexico, where you can see the shark come up and how the white blends in. So go check that out.
So they're huge, but also elusive.
They try to be. They try
Yeah.
to.
Yeah. And I saw another question that was that super interesting for anyone who's a recreational fisher, or just curious about the diets of white sharks. I know I'm so curious as to what else white sharks consume on Cape Cod. You did mention something about squid. I've seen so many videos on social media of people fishing for striped bass in the summer, and then what you call the tax man comes and takes a big chunk out of the back of the striped bass. Are there other prey items on the menu for great white sharks on Cape Cod, and what would those be?
Yeah, so it's quite interesting. So they have a very similar, as they grow, their food changes very similar to us humans and other animals. So when white sharks are born, they're born at about 4 to 5 feet in length. And with that, then their teeth are more of a skinny triangle, and they are really just flat and sharp. And so because of that, then it acts very much like a fish hook would be. So it's very more efficient at capturing things like squid and fish. And then as they grow to about like that subadult age, or they're probably around 10 feet or so in length, those teeth that we're more familiar with, the white sharks, start to grow in. So those larger triangle shaped teeth, I like to call them big, like Dorito chips to me. And with that, then they grow in those serrated edges, like you would see a steak knife. Then those type of teeth are more equipped to feed on marine mammals like seals or whale carcasses off of the coastline. They still will eat squid and fish and other sharks, as we saw in our Cat's Tag video at the beginning of the presentation. But as they grow, they like to have those larger marine mammals, so they have the nutrients and stuff. It would be like us eating like Cheez-Its versus like a nice, like well-rounded like chicken with rice and like broccoli or something like that. So yeah, their food does change, and their diet changes. So if we look at like an adult gray seal can be, very large, almost 7 feet in length, a couple 100 pounds. So it's almost twice the size of what a baby white shark is, right? So for them, they wouldn't be able to successfully feed on an adult gray seal. So it just changes as they grow.
Interesting. Very interesting. I think, Ashley, we have time for one more question if you want to pick one out of the chat.
Sure. We have a question from Maddie. How fast does a great white shark swim?
Ooh, so at top speeds around 35 miles an hour, but that is not sustained. That is when they are actively going after a prey item. But then as they are just kind of swimming along, it really depends, usually around 5 to 10 miles an hour. But I've been on our research boat and we've been beside a shark, and it's like almost like at a standstill, and it's just slowly cruising. And then others, they jet off really fast. So it really just depends, but they can swim pretty fast when needed.
Very interesting stuff. So yeah, I think we're gonna round off here tonight. Any other questions that we didn't get to, we'll definitely be able to answer those in the chat after the webinar. But yeah, Kristen, thank you so much. I mean, I'm like a nerd about this stuff. I find it so interesting. And it's always a pleasure to talk to you and to hear what you all at Atlantic White Shark Conservancy are doing, the collaborations that you have going. It is really cool, and I appreciate you taking the time to talk to our audience about this. And I definitely appreciate all the work that you're doing to improve public safety efforts, around Atlantic white sharks, helping us understand these animals more. Yeah, Ashley, is there anything else you wanted to say here?
I don't think so. I did see a couple of comments that weren't questions, so we'll get to you guys as well in the comments to answer your inquiries. But other than that, thank you all for tuning in. Some great questions came in, which is great to hear.
Yeah, and if anyone has any questions moving forward, feel free to reach out to us. We're more than happy to answer your questions moving forward in the future. And Kristen, I'm sure we'll end up hearing from you again at some point soon.
Yes, absolutely. I'm more than happy to come back. I love being able to sit down and talk to you all. And maybe this year we can actually come up. I've never been to the Seacoast Science Center. So maybe this year we'll be.
Can I come on the boat?
We'll try to work it out.
All right. I'll hold you to that. That sounds like a yes. But But Kristen, thank you so much again. We look forward to talking to you more in the future. Look forward to hearing more about the New Hampshire data and those buoys. We will share that info with the public as soon as we hear anything from you about it. And yeah, we look forward to just keeping this going and learning more about these incredible, these iconic New England animals that are coming back.
Yep. Thank you again for everyone for coming and having such great questions. This was awesome.
Cheers.